Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ounce of Wisdom. I'm Ben Blankenship, owner of Accio Business Coaching and Advising. And today I'm joined by my co-host, Kelly Fry. Hey Kelly.
Hey, Ben. I'm excited to be joined today by Kristin Kopp. And Kristin is the Chief of Staff and the champion of strategic initiatives for Line 5. And Line 5 is a company that helps growth stage entrepreneurs as they scale and prepare for exit. Kristin specifically is so good. Her job intertwines operations, leadership development, and value creation.
Yeah, Kristen is fantastic to know. She's a great person. She works closely with John Ratliff at Line 5. And she is very skilled at not only the coaching environment and understanding clients and what they need, but also like really digging into people. And so she works with teams to help them understand the gifts and the stressors on individual team members and how that kind of rolls up to kind of a team dynamic. And then helping maximize the team to get the best results. I'm very excited to spend time with Kristin today.
Hey, let's dive in.
All right, let's do it. Let's dig in. Kristin, welcome to Ounce of Wisdom. We are so happy to have you with us today.
Hi, Kristin. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Kelly and Ben. Great to be here with you both.
So, Kristin, I know that you are steeped in really understanding how people work and through that how teams work. And you've compiled some best practices and tools. I know that you are a super user of Kolbe and Working Genius. And so I was hoping we could investigate what steps you're taking to really better understand teams and then to really help optimize that team for better results.
That's such a great question. I think I think we've joked that I am a certification junkie a bit. So I'm fascinated by, it started with myself. I'm fascinated by sort of what makes me tick, what makes me most effective, both personally and professionally in adding value to a team. So I started investigating. I've done lots of different assessments, and the ones that I've really honed in on that I have chosen because I think that they're so powerful with growth company leadership teams are Kolbe, which was founded by Kathy Kolbe. We're getting ready to celebrate 50 years of her assessment being out in the world. And it's an interesting one because it's conative. So it's how people take action when striving. And then I've also more recently gotten certified in Working Genius, which is Pat Lencioni, known best for 5 dysfunctions of a team. But both of these assessments, when sort of layered on top of one another, really address the topic of energy. And as you know, when you're in a leadership position, when you're in a highly functioning role and your company is growing, energy is at a premium, right? So the more we can understand ourselves and those that we're working closely with and how they work best to conserve energy or to best leverage their energy and how we might work together as a team from an energy standpoint, I think the more productive that communications can be, that meetings can be, that individuals can be in functioning on a team. So I really look at any assessments. Again, I focus on Kolbe and Working Genius, but any assessments that teams might be taking or companies might be rolling out as just another tool that they can start using to really maximize communications, schedules, project assignments, roles, and responsibilities. That's kind of my overarching view on assessments.
Love it. So once a team member or team members take the assessment and you receive the results, like what's next? What do you do with that information? That's kind of a part one. And part two is what happens when somebody disagrees with the results? How do you handle that?
Yeah, both very, very interesting. So with both of the assessments, with both Kolbe and Working Genius, you are given back a report that goes over your score. Kolbe is a 4-digit number score, and Working Genius is a 6-letter sort of ranking. And Kolbe talks about how do you collect information, how do you organize that information, what's your risk tolerance, and what's your sort of comfortability with tangibles. And then Working Genius looks at the cycle of work and where are you activated in energy, whether it's ideation, activation, or implementation. So sort of those phases. So you get those reports, and then yes, exactly what do you do about them? My approach has always been when working with teams, once you know, or once you have the information, first of all, digest it, I do find most people agree with it. They might have a few areas where they think, well, this isn't exactly reflective of me. And a lot of times we'll refocus them on like, think about this in not what your preference is, but this is where you get energy. So those preferential or those affective assessments oftentimes might create a little bit of like, I don't really see myself here, but it's really about, again, these two are sort of what fills your bucket from an energy perspective. So once they have the results, I like to kind of do a debrief with them. And then I think what's really interesting is when you compile all of the team's results and start to recognize in the people that you're working closely with. You shared my role as chief of staff, so I work in close support of a CEO. And as you can imagine, we have very different scores, both in Kolbe and Working Genius. But it's really given us a structure and a language to use to discuss areas where we might experience conflict if we didn't really understand and appreciate the differences in our working styles. It allows us to not only address them if they're points of conflict, but actually then regroup and like leverage where are my strong points, where are John's strong points, how can we kind of move through this maybe period where we aren't agreeing on the approach, and then just continue to work in a healthy relationship. So that's kind of how I view that. If people do disagree, it's open to conversation, but it's a lot of times, I believe the best thing you can know is how you work, and then be able to clearly communicate to those that you're working with best ways to engage with you.
Yeah. Kristin, I think you know this, but I use Kolbe and Working Genius as well. And they're fantastic tools, and I appreciate the value of them. One of the exercises I go through is just asking the individual, what do you agree with and what do you disagree with? And if based on your feedback, your team read your report and read your adjustments or your notes, could they rely on this to refresh themselves and really understand how to best work with you on a big project or to advance the organization, right? So first, there's usually no notes. People are like, no, that's who I am. And the second piece is you vet. I'd love it if somebody would read my report before we engage in a big effort to remember how I operate and, how I'm at my best. And it sounds like you run across the same kind of feedback as well.
I do. And I oftentimes just tell people, again, if I'm working with clients, they're often really busy and they're adding this into, right? So somebody's suggested, their CEO's decided, maybe their people person has decided, oh, we're going to do these assessments. And you can sort of tell people are thinking, oh my goodness, one more thing I have to think about. I really start with the basics. Like after you get your report and you sort of see how you're wired, so to speak, start to notice like what are days that feel really good to you? What are weeks that feel really good? Look back at your schedule. What kinds of meetings were you in? What kinds of calls were you having? How were you having engagements? Because that will start to support sort of what works well for you, or what's like something you should start to really be mindful of when you're booking your schedule or when you're sitting in meetings. So you can use it as simply as that. You don't have to get super technical and really be worried, well, what numbers are going together and what letters match. But it's really, for me, just recognizing, oh, I'm feeling like this wasn't a great week. Let me reflect back. Let me look at my scores. Let me see maybe what activities I was participating in that weren't in alignment. And then let me make some changes going forward.
Love it. I have one quick follow-up. And that is regarding the recruiting side of things, right? So oftentimes we'll use these assessments with folks that are already on our bench. How are you using Kolbe and Working Genius to help clients vet potential candidates to join the team?
So I think it's a two-part question. One is really understanding how the team dynamics work now, and maybe where you have gaps or where you have areas that you might want to, look for future candidates that can fill those gaps. They're going to clearly need to have a skill set to be hired for a specific job. But if you can find somebody that has a skill set that, coincidentally lines up with your team nicely in the Working Genius Kolbe area, I think that can be a win. Kolbe actually has a specific process that they will take you through if you choose to hire under their assessment umbrella. And so they will consider a few more things. They will look at who is the person describing the job and have them complete a Kolbe C. And then they will, as the supervisor, they will have it like a Kolbe B. So the candidate will also look at, taking the Kolbe, and then it's more of a match. So they want to make sure that it's not just about the role itself, what the expectations are for that person, how they expect them to sort of behave or how to take action, but it's also taking into consideration who's going to be managing them closely and how their two Kolbes might fit together. So it's kind of a twofold when you look at Kolbe.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Kristin, it is a pleasure to visit with you. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our listeners and our viewers. And I look forward to our paths crossing again very soon. I hope you have a great week.
Great. Anytime.
That was so interesting. Thank you, Kristin. Thank you for joining us today for Ounce of Wisdom. We are so grateful to our experts and hope that this episode has been helpful to you. We'll be covering a variety of topics through our channel, so please take a minute to look around, like, share, and subscribe. Is there a topic you would like us to cover? Please comment below or reach out. Do you need help identifying pain points in your business? Check out our resources at www.acuo-bc.com. The link will also be provided below. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Ounce of Wisdom.